this past Sunday I was at a family event, Saturday I'm sorry, I was at a family event where one of my mother's friends, someone I've known all my life, told me just sort of casually that she can't imagine raising children today because it's so dangerous. The world is so violent, so many crazy people out there. And I said to her rather matter-of-factly, it's never been safer than it is today. And she said, oh, that's completely ridiculous, I don't believe it. So I went into my nephew's bedroom, and this was in the New York City area, and I went to Wolfram Alpha, and I typed in murder rates New York City 1950 to 2010, and that's the graph. And when I showed that to her, she said, well, you can make a graph say anything. And then I showed her the tables of numbers. And she said, well, anyone can vie with statistics. And then I said, well, how do you like the narrative? Violent crime in New York City has decreased in the last 15 years, and murder rate in 2007 was at its lowest since at least 1963. At which point she said, well, I don't believe any of it. Hence Fox News. And it's amazing how educational ideas are sort of timeless. I remember when my son was in 11th grade and he loved history, although he didn't necessarily love history class. Now he's a history teacher. But we went to back to school night, which my wife used to call the night of 1,000 magazine columns, because I wrote a magazine column every month. And the stuff I used to see at back to school night could give me about 6 or 10 columns. And in this case, we were in a history class, and I raised my hand, and after the teacher said that we have to get from the Revolutionary War, we have to get from colonization to the Civil War, or from the Civil War to the present, or whatever. We have to cover all this ground and deliver all this curriculum. I raised my hand and asked, do you connect the curriculum to anything that's happening in the real world? And she asked a fairly frightening question. She said, what do you mean? And I tried not to let my head explode, and I calmly suggested, well, it's September 2000, there are these elections coming up in November, maybe, and she replied, they do elections next year. And 2000 was probably a good year to interrupt the curriculum to talk about elections, since it was one of the first constitutional crises in our history. But another thing that sparked my thinking about digital democracy and digital citizenship was actually a commercial, the parody on Saturday Night Live around 2004 that I've never been able to actually find. But they did a commercial that was sort of like the Swift boat ad, so we'll talk about that in some detail for those of you who don't remember or aren't from the US. And they said, this ad brought to you by Adobe Photoshop for when you want to get history just right. And I thought that if we want kids to be good consumers of information and to really understand propaganda, we should teach them how to lie ourselves. So, for those of you who don't remember, in 2004,
if you have any question about what John Kerry's made up,
an independent PAC took the fact that John Kerry was a military hero and turned this against him, and probably cost him the election. So these are all clips that are freely available on YouTube from that Swift boat campaign. And then there were some alternatives created in the last election in 2008 that sort of inject a little levity into the process.
John Edwards, no, 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 no. Bad, 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 bad. John Edwards has a 26,000 square foot air conditioner. The biggest air conditioner in the world. Uses up a ton of energy. John Edwards paid over $4,000 to get his nails done. I should know because my mom gave him that manicure. John Edwards is a total loser.
This message is sponsored by Swift Kids for Truth.
Look at one or two more. Now get to the point.
Hillary Clinton is a thief. She stole stuff from the White House, like towels and plates and other stuff. She took fans, lights, toiletries, rugs. Hillary Clinton's not a woman. He's a man. There is medical evidence that they're not telling you about that confirms she is a man, not a woman. So don't vote for her for president or you'll be sorry. Hillary Clinton, I can't believe you.
This message is sponsored by Swift Kids for Truth.
One more.
Barack Obama, Barack Obama, Barack Obama, Barack Obama. His name is really difficult to say. Obama Lama. Do we want a president with a name like that? Barack Obama lied to the American people when he told us that he was black. He's not black. I should know because I'm black. Barack Obama. Barack Obama, Barack Obama, Barack Obama, Barack Obama, Obama, Barack Obama, Barack Obama, and Barack Obama.
This message is sponsored by Swift Kids for Truth.
So those kids now advise the Newt Gingrich campaign. You know, it occurred to me during all of this silliness that the best way for kids to understand the process of media manipulation was for them to manipulate media. And while it was the case in 2004 and 2008, it is certainly the case now that you could take 3 or 4 campaign commercials or speech segment fragments from a candidate and give them to a group of kids and ask half the kids to use those 3 clips to make a commercial for the candidate and ask the other half of the room to make a commercial against that candidate using the exact same footage. You know, what are the tips of manipulation there? The black and white, the slowing down, the eerie music, you know, the camera angles. And I think the kids would get a kick out of it, but I would also make them better digital citizens and just plain old citizens as well. So that was just sort of my, oh, well, let me, how are we doing on time? You want to do one more thing? I can show one more thing. I'll skip the Swift Kids.
Oh, we're good.
Well, look, you know.
We have another, do I have another 2 minutes?
Yeah, 2 minutes fine.
So there are other ways to participate. And let me just say, because I forgot to say it earlier, I was on a bunch of panels at COSIN right after Tahrir Square, you know, in the uprising in Egypt. And everyone else on the panel showed a photograph of Tahrir Square and told the audience that now children were involved in globalism. And I pointed out, I don't believe it's globalism, I believe it's voyeurism. You know, we need to define participation. You know, I asked, what can the kids do with that video of Tahrir Square? Were they now encouraged to go to their principal and ask him to address their grievances? Does school become more democratic? Do they participate in their community in a greater fashion? Just the fact that you could watch something on the web from far away isn't a participation, and it's not citizenship as far as I'm concerned. This is, these are some video clips from a DVD called Battleground Minnesota that was created in 2004 by a kid who called himself Shackademic. For a time, he was homeless in Minnesota, but despite the odds, he became fascinated by the lack of political participation among young people and decided to do something about it. And he made this incredibly whimsical documentary that eventually got distributed in Best Buy stores throughout the state of Minnesota. And there are a lot of lessons in this for kids, like he didn't do anything particularly technically difficult, but he contacted all the senior ranking political figures in the state, and they all agreed to meet with him and be interviewed. And he went through the process of arranging this. So let me just show a few of these video clips, because it's quite extraordinary. It reminds you of what kids are capable of if we give them the opportunity.
Out there in TV land, your boy Chris is here. We're here live in Edina at a lady named Kathy's house, and she's having a presidential party for the presidents. So I'm here with this lemon pudding cake. I'm about to go give it to her as a welcome. So we're gonna go inside, check it out. Please check it out.
Hi.
You Kathy?
Yes.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Come on in. You know, Vice President Cheney is about to speak, so you guys are coming at the right time. We have him on the speakerphone. He was talking in about 30 seconds, so come on in.
Thank you. Oh, sir, I'm Chris. Be the first for today.
My daughter is a junior this year, so she gets to vote. And she said, I'm voting for George Bush, Mom. And I said, oh, why is that? And she said, because I think he's cute.
So don't let people tell you that weapons of mass destruction aren't out there. They are.
And she thought it was a good thing for us to do.
Let's skip around. He goes on and interviews Republicans, Democrats, the Greens. He goes to an ice cream social run by the Greens, which is pretty funny.
He's abused the power of...
And then he does some more, profound stuff like this.
The government needs to go back to the Christian roots of the founding fathers and understand that this is a country, one nation under God, indivisible. And if we don't have God, we are divisible,
I believe we should have one nation under God. I'm not opposed to that. In fact, I strongly support that. My only concern is that they seem to want to copyright God for themselves. And their version of Christianity, and by the way, the majority of Christians do not agree with this fundamentalist version of Christianity that they're out there proselytizing. This is almost the equivalent of the Taliban wing of the Republican Party having taken over America.
And he meets with
former
Vice President Walter Mondale, and Mondale, like any great elder, says, well, I taught you something, now you show me something. So he's teaching Mondale how to scratch records with DJ.
Yeah, because otherwise you'd have... It is a needle?
Oh, do you hear it though?
I hear a tick, tick, right?
Tick, 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 tick.
Yeah. Is this the volume here?
Spin stuff like that up and down all day.
Yeah.
Give it a little.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I
Did
can
you
learn
hear
to work that.
Did you hear that? Think I could make it?
Yeah. One more time.
Okay. Did I do it right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was not ready. That's how you do it.
I'm ready, yeah. I'm ready.
Acting like you don't know.
One of the things I've been saying in a lot of the talks that I've been giving is that I'm meeting an alarming number of teenagers in this country who have never had a conversation with an adult. They've been bossed around, they've been called names, they've been labeled, they've been ranked and sorted. And I think that the societal implications of a generation of young people who don't know how to be older people scares the heck out of me. And I think, this is a terrific example of kids participating in their real world, doing authentic work. And it answers the question that I often ask: what if kids were using computers to do something that was good? And I'll just show you the last little clip because it's ripped from the headlines. This is Shakademic interviewing Governor Tim Pawlenty of Minnesota, except he's not actually interviewing Pawlenty. He's translating for a kid from Somalia who's asking the questions.
What's good? Your boy Shakademic live, St. Paul at the Capitol. Governor Tim Pawlenty doing big things. We're about to ask him some questions. Holla at your boy.
السؤال ugu dambaysa waxaa weydiinaynaa yani dharku xiran uu dharku jecel inuu xirto maraakwe mise fubu farabad mise wuxuu jecel dharka khiyaarta inuu xirto.
Could you please discuss to us why it's important for young people to be involved in the political process?
Because the future belongs to the young people. And if you don't participate, or young people don't participate, the decisions get made by somebody else for you, and then bad things happen.
We'd also like to ask the governor which he prefers, pizza or chicken nuggets.
Why do you think that there's so many young people that are disconnected from politics?
Well, I think for several reasons. I think a couple of the leading reasons are that politics has to be relevant to them. If young people don't feel it makes a difference, then they don't participate. They vote with their feet. They walk away and go do something else. And so I think politics, young people need to hopefully understand and appreciate that who's in these offices makes a difference in their lives, makes a difference in their school, makes a difference in their community, makes a difference in their country.
So the moral of this story is that kids can be involved in a political process. They can make real contributions. They can use computers and the internet to not just be passive recipients of news from around the world, but to be bringing about change and informing their communities as well as enlightening themselves with the stuff that they already have access to, if we create the context in which they can be productive in such a fashion. So with that, I'm happy to turn things back over to my hosts, and thank you for your time.